Hey, here we are outside. What a great day, right? The birds are chirping, blue skies. Wow, we don't get that very often. But hi, so I'm Beth.
And I'm Deb.
And this is the Beth and Deb Show. Yes, it is. And today we're talking about something that we kind of talk a lot in kind of all of our videos and with students and, folks all the time about, but we've never actually done, what's the real deal with counseling?
Yeah.
How do I do it? How do I get started?
Well, we say it a lot of just go see somebody.
Mm-hmm.
If you need more help than this, go see somebody. But there's a lot. Why do you think, even when I think, oh, maybe I need to go see a counselor, because it's normal. Even I am a counselor and I need to see a counselor sometimes.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
I still kind of feel that oh, I don't know. So maybe we could start by talking about a little bit about why we have those feelings. Why do you think?
Yeah.
Beth, why do you think I would be scared to go to counseling?
Well, if you are like most people,
I probably am.
Yeah. I mean, there's a stigma around counseling, right? That we live in a culture, and probably your family has taught you, you are strong enough to do this on your own.
Yeah.
You don't need help. You don't need people outside. Don't share a business with people. So I think there's this stigma that seeing a counselor means you're weak and you can't deal with your problems on your own. And, one of the things that I talk with people about as they're talking to me about going to see someone, it's actually there's so much strength in admitting and not wanting to burden the people that are close to you with all the stuff that you don't need to be burdening them with. There is a balance of having somebody who's there for you and then overburdening them with all your stuff.
Knowing when it's too much.
Yeah, definitely.
Just the normal kind of social support isn't really enough to get you past whatever it is that you're dealing with. And I think for me too, it's about that, a little bit of that fear of vulnerability.
For sure.
I don't know that I want a new stranger knowing all my business and having to say these things out loud. And then what if I don't connect well with this person? And then I've just told them all this stuff, and it just feels a little intimidating.
Yeah. And the myth that people have about therapy is talking about it won't change it.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard that?
Yeah,
what's the point?
A lot. Yeah, what's the point?
Talking about it won't change it.
Right.
So what's the point of therapy?
Mm-hmm.
How do you respond?
Talking about it does change it. I mean, just the simple act, even though we do more than just talk about it in therapy, just sometimes the simple act of getting something out there in the open, off your chest, and have somebody else hear it and still accept you and, and give you positive feedback about yourself. They're not going to, we counselors are not going to judge you. We understand why people do things or why things happen, or just that fact of being accepted by someone who sees your dark secret can be really a healing process. But like I said, we do more than just talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes saying it out loud is very freeing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Where you've been stewing and stewing and stewing, and then you finally say it out loud, and then you're like, wow, I did that.
I did that. Yeah. Didn't kill me to say that. Yeah.
So, here's the good news, right? That therapy and the stigma of counseling is getting better.
Yeah.
Right? I think generationally, it's getting to be more accepted. Millennials and Gen X are tending to sway things more toward it's okay to be in therapy. And, one kind of stat that I saw that I thought was really interesting is that if your family supports therapy, you're more likely to think therapy is a good idea. And if your family doesn't support therapy, you're more likely not to. And that makes sense, but I didn't ever really think about it, maybe that way. So if you have a family that is man, you got to just suck it up and deal with your problems yourself, it makes sense that you might have a little more resistance.
This is how you've learned.
To that. So let's kind of demystify the process for folks, right? So I think starting from, hey, I think I might need to see someone. What's the first step? What do people how do people find a counselor?
I think it's different for different people. So it depends on how much you are already familiar
Sure.
with, counselors in your area. If you've never been to counseling, if you don't know anything about, I think you could either ask other people.
Definitely.
If you know somebody who's seen a counselor, they might have a good recommendation for you. Or like going online and Google, most counseling practices have websites where they'll give a little, a picture and a bio of their therapists, what they specialize in, what they work with. And, you can just kind of do some research about practices in your area.
Yeah, the good and the bad is that now we live in a social media and, internet kind of world where you can basically Google a lot of folks.
Yes.
So I think asking a friend is a great idea. I think kind of Googling counselors in my area. And I know another way that a lot of folks come is through their insurance. So if you have health insurance, you could call and find out who is in your network. So then,
or a physician, like if your physician refers you.
Yeah, physicians, your doctor would probably give you some recommendations that they might know. I think the fit even just kind of starts out feeling better if you know someone who knows them. I just think it always feels a little bit better. Yeah. Let's talk about a little bit. People sometimes wonder, okay, do I need to see a person with a PhD? Right? Or is a master's person who I should see? Right? So PhD level. Yeah, absolutely. So PhD level folks are typically called psychologists. And master's level folks are called therapists or counselors. And so when people say, I need to have a PhD, what do you say?
That seems a little snobbish. Or not, maybe not snobbish, but like just because you have a PhD doesn't necessarily make you better. Like there's probably way better therapists at the master's level than than could ever be at the PhD. So it's really people who get their master's in counseling are doing that because they love counseling, right? Like that's all they want to do. They just want to see you, talk to you. That's where their passion lies. Whereas people with PhDs may love counseling, but we also like to do a variety of other things as well, like teaching, like we do. So I think that's probably a misconception that you need a PhD to get the best, highest level of care.
Totally. It's really more about who the person is and your connection to that person. So if you, know someone who's connected well with a master's level person, it's all about that.
And we're taught how to we're in this profession because we want to connect with people. We go master's and PhD, we all go through a lot of training on the techniques, the skills we need to make you comfortable in sessions, to hear you, to listen appropriately, to be non-judgmental, all those things that you want, you're likely to find that in a master's level.
Yep.
Just as easy as a PhD.
Yep. Definitely. And if you're a person who maybe doesn't have insurance, there's a lot of community resources. Sure. So community mental health centers. I know in some communities where there are college campuses, they sometimes have like a clinic where, when we were in training, getting our PhD and even our master's degree, they had a clinic on campus where community members could come and be seen by students in training. And so
it was like $10 max per session. And a lot of times it was even $1 if you really had very low income. So
so don't be discouraged if you don't have insurance. So just make sure that you realize there are lots of resources. We talked before about college campuses often have a counseling center or someone who is dedicated to working with students. So you might check student support services or
and community mental health services, like big kind of community based, not private practices, but often if you don't have insurance, they'll work with you or they'll help you find a way to get insurance. If you have low income and can qualify for some sort of government insurance program, they'll help you figure that out. So it can be really good.
Great. And I think let's start with, how do I make that call? So I found a therapist that I want to call, and I'm really nervous. Can I just have my mom call? Well, no, not if you're an adult. You have to put your big girl pants on.
That's right.
And make the call yourself. And, I think it's important to realize that that first phone call is meant to just kind of gather information, right? They want to get some information. They want to set up a first appointment. And actually, you're taking a really good first step by just making the call, right? Yeah. So we know that if you can get to making the call, you're more likely to follow through. And so expect for them to ask about your name, your address, your insurance information. It's good to have your insurance card there so they can take that.
Basic reason why you're seeking counseling. And so don't go into all the nitty gritty on the phone that you're probably just talking to an office administrator who is not going to be your counselor. So just say, well, I'm having some anxiety or depression issues or like a relationship issue. That's all they need.
Yeah. Because you're going to have paperwork that you fill out, just like when you go to the doctor. Yeah. You're going to have paperwork that you can go into more detail because that paperwork is what's going to go to your actual therapist, right? So, I love the idea of kind of, I have depression or I'm having some work issues or just kind of
very brief.
Broad. Yeah. And so what's that first session like, right? So, okay, I've made the call. My appointment is today at 10 o'clock. I'm really scared. What should I expect?
You go in, you fill out the paperwork, like you said, which will have a lot of questions, privacy notices, things like that. And then you'll actually sit down with your counselor. And like I know we're pretty intimidating, right? It would be really hard to talk to me and Beth. But I think that, as counselors, we know that it's not comfortable to come in for a first session. And that first session for me has a lot to do with, number one, making the person feel comfortable.
Definitely.
Number two, gathering a lot of information without getting into like the nitty gritty vulnerability pieces, because that could scare people off. So I kind of like gather a lot of different information. I ask a lot of different questions about all different areas of life, family, work, history, all of that stuff, as well as, like what you're coming for. But we don't get into hardcore counseling the first session.
Dark secrets the first time.
So it's about setting that base comfort level, making sure we're on the same page with things, and kind of setting some hope for future sessions of like, yes, we can work on this. I already have a lot of great ideas about, where to go with this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to have expectations that you'll talk about some things, but maybe not every single thing that you want to get off your chest may come out in that first session. And I think it's also good to kind of keep in the back of your mind that, you just want to start to feel comfortable around that person. And so, when you get to the waiting room and you check in and you kind of sit and you wait for your name to be called, you might feel yourself getting really anxious, but realize that a huge portion, I don't know what the stat is, but a huge portion of folks all feel nervous.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't feel nervous about like being
in the hot seat,
right? About your own personal struggle. Nobody goes into that with like, wow, this is going to be the best thing,
Yeah. And the truth is your counselor might feel nervous too of like, I hope this first session goes well. I hope I can do the right things that I'm supposed to do for this person. So, there might be some anxieties on both sides. Yeah. Everybody's only human.
Yeah. I think one other thing that I usually try to tell folks ahead of time is it's not always going to feel great.
Yeah.
Like part of the digging up process of therapy is that sometimes it feels yucky before it gets better, And so in my first sessions, I usually talk, among other things, about the process of therapy, right? Yeah. Where it's like, you're here, and then for a little bit, you're going to feel better. Yeah. Right? You're going to be like, this is great. I love therapy. I love Beth. It's awesome. And then as we start digging, and really the metaphor of digging is we're kind of feeling maybe not as good.
Yeah.
And this is where people usually quit, right? Where they're like, this is hard, and I don't like this because I don't like digging. I don't like being vulnerable. But I usually tell folks that if you can stay here and pull yourself back out, like that's really where the healing process of therapy is.
I like to think of it as like each therapy session isn't a sitcom, right? Like it's not like you there's a little problem and then you solve it by the end of the session and you're left with like glowing. A smile on your face. Mm-hmm. It's more like your favorite series on Netflix where like it's a season or even like the whole series where you go and it's cool, you're interested in the beginning and then like some really heavy stuff. Like we're watching Stranger Things right now on Netflix, and in the middle episodes, it's really dark of this season. Like you kind of want to give up because it seems really hopeless. But then by the, you know, like it's good by the end, you come out of it. So think of it more as like a long a series arc instead of just a sitcom.
Yeah. Let's end this with talking about a few things that we would want potential clients to know. Sure. Like what is their role in the counseling process, right? That, you know, my push for my clients is that they take an active role, right? That I only get them 1 hour a week, but they have to make decisions outside of therapy that go along with their health and healing. And so I want them to be active in setting their goals with me. Like I want for them to be active in sharing the things that matter. Yeah. You know, I've had you probably have too, definitely clients who are like, well, I just am not going to share that with her. And we are trained in trying to help dig up hard things, but if you're, you know, purposely trying to dodge, you know, those kinds of things. Yeah. So share the things that really matter. Try not to avoid them.
Yeah. There was a study that I saw recently that like most people don't fully disclose things in therapy. Yeah. And it's like, that's kind of like, I get it. Yeah. But that's not going to be where you get the most help from somebody.
Yeah, you get out of it what you put in.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think don't expect your therapist to know everything right away.
Right. Don't expect us to give you advice and solve your problems immediately. We're probably going to ask you to do a lot of your own problem solving. Yeah. So that's like that whole teach a man to fish thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's like I could tell you exactly what to do and you're probably not going to do it. But if you come up with what you need to do, then you're more likely to follow through on it yourself.
Yeah. So those were some of the kind of more common things we talked about or we've thought about in terms of what's the deal with counseling. We'd love for you to follow us on Instagram or Facebook and share other questions that you might have about the counseling process. Yeah. We'd love to answer more questions that you might have. So comment and we will make another video or pop in and share more thoughts.
Yeah. So. And on our Instagram and Facebook, we share additional tips and resources and links to other things that you might find interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Hope to talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.